mechanical engineer just didn't think anything about that. And there wasn't any ground to any of that stuff. There wasn't any ground to some of these cover panels and things like that down there. And you can't do that. You've got to have some kind of ground to it. Otherwise, it acts as an antenna, it spreads it, it gets very sensitive to it. You get arcs inside the equipment.
Look at the natural frequency, and you'll notice that it's based on stiffness and mass. Okay, stiffness of the structure is going to affect how it responds, how it vibrates. Then we have an actual damping coefficient that's added to it, and that's FC.
The truck was having its batteries charged. It hadn't been moved for quite some time. The engine had not been running, therefore it was not warm. The hydraulic system was not pressurized, so in our case, not likely, based on the data and that the insured is telling us at the time. All evidence, all part of the scientific method.
And this here is what we would call severe delamination. Those laminations are just coming apart. And that one is a pretty wide one. There's not even any snow loading up on that roof right there. So you can imagine, that was probably the one that was 1.5 inches wide, or 1.25 inches wide. So the repair, like I mentioned,
of course you can identify the manufacturer. And so there is a wealth of information available right here. So you know a lot about the pipe if you're able to look for the label, copy it down, take a photograph of the label so you can identify what you're dealing with, what kind of pipe it is, what kind of standards it's supposed to be manufactured and installed.
Here you've got the upper topsoil layers a little bit more cohesive. Notice the pattern of the cracks in the soil. Kind of arc to it. None of these are a complete circle, but you have that nice arc to it, shape to it.
Is that, let's say just hypothetically that there's only one insurance company on this risk, okay? Insurance companies, in order to minimize their own risk, they transfer part of that risk and they will sell part of their coverage to a reinsurer. And a reinsurer, just think of it in terms of, if I'm a reinsurer, I insure insurance companies and their risk. So you might report to an insurance company who then, he's got a reinsurer.
Right about there's some blocks, and they're actually being crushed from previous years where they had a lot of rain, and then it would try to lift up part of the porch. And so they get wet and they push up, then they get dry and they pull away, and all this action is torquing on the building and causing a lot of hay valve.
Quantitative vibration characteristics rely on amplitudes of displacement, velocity, acceleration, frequency of vibration, all for defining it. That is seismic information. We had to talk on some seismic stuff earlier, but the only way that you can kind of quantify is when you have...
In situations like this, a quick response is not always the best response, but at least you're doing something. And I say that because if the regulatory folks show up, and they will, they expect to see you doing something, even if it's wrong. So the only thing that we could really do, the release occurred 7 days prior. The only thing that was left was stained asphalt and concrete. But I knew darn well that if they showed up, they'd say, what happens if it rains? Where's that contamination?
Over the next 5 years or so, you'll see things happening on it. Nanotechnology tort is clearly something that's happened. Nanotechnology is kind of one of the buzzwords that everybody uses. Genetically modified organisms, we have no idea what's going to happen with some of that stuff, so there'll be liabilities that flow from that. Ethanol has already introduced a number of material compatibility type of issues that generate leaks, that generate releases. Climate change, that's a big unknown.
You have to complete your investigation in good faith. The investigation should include everything available to you. You don't pull out the things that you find that might hurt your client. You put in the things that will hurt your client because your client doesn't want to be surprised.